Okay, hold on. Okay, we're recording.
All right, thanks for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I've got some information to pass out. The first thing is just a sheet of paper. I'm passing it out. I'm asking you to list some information. Sometimes people are worried that I'm going to find out all their secrets and such. You can keep the paper. If at the end of this meeting you want to use me as a consultant, by all means, give me the information. Otherwise, this is yours. Make notes. If you never see me again, and you just take notes in this presentation, I can probably help you save tens of thousands of dollars of college costs. There's three things that you've got to be concerned with educational funding. Number one, start saving so that you have the money when it's time for your child to go to college. Pretty simple. College is expensive. How expensive? Well, let me back up just a little bit. How expensive is it to raise a child? Now, it's funny, I was on a website yesterday and I found out that per child, it costs $226,000 just to get them to age 17. Isn't that something? And if you'd like your child to go to one of the elite universities today, it's going to cost you over $60,000 a year. That's $240,000. Now, that's an incredibly large sum of money. But I got bad news. If that's not bad enough, for the last 20 or so years, inflation has averaged about 3% a year. College costs have gone up 6 to 8% a year. Average of 7% a year. And it's kind of amazing. Why does college cost so much? Well, think about it. Think of college for a moment as a business. All businesses are in business to make money. They make money by charging you a lot of money. How much money do people charge you for Kool-Aid, Milky Way bars, gasoline, right? Isn't it interesting that the gasoline you put in your car costs the oil companies more money to produce than diesel, and yet diesel fuel costs more. Why? Because they can. Now, if NYU costs you $60,000 a year, you can kind of, sort of, if you stretch, figure it out. It's in Manhattan. Expensive real estate, right? How come these little colleges in Vermont and upstate New York also cost $60,000 a year? Because that's what they can get. They've got enough students, they can get that much money. All right, so we want to talk about these things because it's going to be a lot of money. If it's going to cost you $226,000 to raise a child and then another $240,000 to send them to college, how many children do you want? The average cost of college today is more than the average family in America makes a year. That's a lot of money. So, with that in mind, we're going to talk a little bit about this. And I'm going to always emphasize, and the primary purpose of this meeting today is to let you know the different ways you can accumulate money for your child to go to college. Now, what we're not going to talk a lot about are the other two legs of that three-legged stool. Right? One is, how do you prepare your child to get accepted? And then number two is, how do you get the most in financial aid, scholarships? We'll touch a little bit about on that, but that's what I do spend more time, because it's a lot more personal. It depends upon your family situation, your circumstances as to what we can do. It doesn't lend itself, but at least you'll know. And again, never forget, and I can't say this enough times, it is obviously always better to have money and not need it than it is to need money and not have it. So, the time to start planning and saving for college funding is now, today. As a matter of fact, yesterday would be better. All right. Caveats about all investment funds. Investment funds, back in the early 1950s, if you had a mutual fund, the people that managed the fund would sell some company's stocks and buy some other stocks. If they thought this company wasn't going to do as well, and this one was going to do better, they sold that and they bought this. Now, there's fees, and ultimately you pay those fees. And they do that about 500 times a year. Today, I saw one book that said it was over 1,400. I saw another that said it was over 14,000. So I'm not sure who had their comma in the right place. The point is, there's a lot more trades. And you wonder, all the commercials, have you seen the commercials on TV? Talk to us. We have real information. We have facts. We have the information you need to make your decisions. We're going to guide you. Talk to us. We'll take your money. We'll help you. You leave one job, go to another, give us your 401k. We'll take care of it for you. We're going to make it easy. I got a question. Any of you guys remember what happened in March of 2000? What was that? Oh yeah, that was when the tech bubble burst and the stock market went down. Now we all know what happened in 9/11 and 2001. And there are other times. But the biggie was back in August of 2008. So keep in mind, if these companies have all that information, how come they didn't have all of us out of those companies and into some kind of a cash position so we didn't lose all our money? All the theories work under normal circumstances. This is not normal. Today there's over 38 million people drawing down on Social Security and Medicare, and the system is broke. 3 years ago, when I got my Social Security notice, it said that in 2018, we were going to be paying out, we the Social Security Administration were going to be paying out more than we're taking in. The next year it said in 2017. But it was 2 years ago when it actually happened. Now, if you got a system that is such a large percentage of our federal budget, let's assume in the next 20 years half those people died. So we got 19 million left, still on Medicare and Social Security retirement. But to that, we had 72 million baby boomers. And apparently I've seen estimates, almost another 5 million immigrants who have paid in for 10 years and qualify. You can have anywhere from 96 to 104 million people drawing down on the system that's already bankrupt with 38 million people. What does that mean to our economy for the next 12, 15, 20 years? It means that the Gen X, Gen Ys have to work and earn enough money to make enough money to support themselves and us baby boomers. Because there's just not enough of them. We're not the only country that has this. It's not a US problem. Think of China. They had a problem. Their population was just going crazy, so they put in regulations to keep people from having too many kids. Now they're in the same boat. If you need a model, look what happened to Japan in 1989. 30% of their population retired. The Nikkei was well over 40,000. That's their Japanese Dow Jones. It dropped down to 7,000. What's it now? 8,000? 1989 till now, there was the growth. In business, through the 70s and 80s, all we heard was the problem with American business is we didn't follow the Japanese model, even though it was an American named Deming as a consultant that taught them how to do it. Our business leaders didn't want to listen at that time. All right. All I'm trying to say is it's a different time. So, you got to be careful what you do. Now, we're going to try and touch on 10 things. Obviously, you can read scholarships and financial aid, 529 plans, ESAs, IRAs, 401k, savings bonds, uniform gift to minors, etc., income and accumulation trust, HOPE, American Opportunity Lifetime Learning Credits, tax techniques to help educational funding. Wouldn't it be great to get an IRS scholarship? And life insurance options. So we'll take them one at a time. Let's talk about the typical American family. What is the typical American family? Well, with a 60% divorce rate, you got your children, you got my children, you got our children. Look at the mix. What is typical? Nothing. But did you notice in these pictures? 1, 2, 3, let's see, that's 240 plus 240 plus 240. I like this one over here. How many times can we multiply 240,000 times those kids? We're going to have to do something about that. All right? Scholarships and financial aid. When's the best time to start looking for scholarships and financial aid? I try to recommend families that this is something you have to teach your son or daughter. You have to teach your son and daughter to do this, and you got to get them to do this when they're in the 7th grade, 12 years old. You give them the websites and you look. Now, you happen to be of Chinese descent because we've talked about it. You're Irish, and who knows what else. I'm Irish and Welsh. Or Indian. How many different cultures do you have? Now, I mention the ethnicity because all those ethnicities have their own scholarships, many of which go unapplied for. There are literally millions of dollars of scholarships that are never funded. Now, granted, some of these are for $250, not $250 a year, flat $250, but that helps. Another one for $750. Maybe this one's for $1,500 a year for 4 years. But if you start your child looking for these things, looking at are they track stars? Do they swim? Are they on the bowling team? Do they like to play badminton? Do they like to study music? Whatever. There are a myriad. There are literally more scholarships out there than you'll find in a decade. Let your child look. Look over their shoulder, help them, and maybe once a week or once a month, whatever, start them working on that. Get them prepared, because quite frankly, that's where it starts. The nice thing about scholarships is when you get the money, you don't have to pay it back. Isn't this an interesting chart? Can you see this? You study, can you read all the print? No? Now, when I saw this the first time, I thought it was a joke. I hate to say this, but if you go online to the government office that gives you the guidance on how to qualify for federal financial aid, this is titled, Financial Aid is Easy. The big print's me. It's in smaller print at the top of the actual thing. And again, I didn't make this up. And if you can read this down here, it says Simplified View. And if you get my book, it's in there. And if you want to, just go search through the financial aid, the federal financial aid, and you'll find it. It is the simplified view. And if you think this is simple, well, you're in for a shocker.
Call from Daisley.
Excuse me.